everybody on the whole network. And he's going to tell you, another 5 minutes or so after the program ends today. So if you can hang around for a couple minutes, he'll tell you about his experiences and what he learned. And that'd be really great. So,
all right. You get it firsthand. Everybody else just has to get the canned version of me.
Start here just in a couple of minutes. Walt Jakubowski went to the World Parkinsons Congress in Glasgow, Scotland.
We'll just go ahead and get started and assume everybody else can hear us as well. So good afternoon to everybody and welcome. My name is Colleen Crowley. I'm the Executive Director at the Northwest Parkinsons Foundation. And this is our telehealth presentation for the month of October. The presentation today is entitled Just Cannot Stop, Compulsions, Addictions, Prioritization. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the Northwest Parkinsons Foundation, I just wanted to let you know that we're a local, actually regional organization, and the work that we do is to provide information, education, awareness, and support to the greater Parkinsons community to help create an optimal quality of life. So that's what we do, in case you didn't know about us. And we're coming to you today from Evergreen Hospital in Kirkland, Washington. This is also the general site of the Booth Gardner Comprehensive Care Parkinson's Care Center. So we want to thank Evergreen for letting us be here today. And we're also doing this in partnership with the Parkinson's Resource Center in Spokane. Normally this is broadcast out of Spokane, but we move it around periodically, so that's why we're here today. And I have just a couple of announcements that I wanted to make. One is with regard to the Hope Conference. Hopefully all of you have heard of the Hope Conference. That's happening it's happening November 6th. It's at the SeaTac Hilton Conference Center down by the airport. And registration is open, so we're hoping that all of you can join us there. It runs from 9 to 3:30. It's a great program. We'll have Dr. Jay Alberts from the Cleveland Clinic talking about specifically exercise and cycling. The other announcement I wanted to add is with regard to a wellness conference coming up actually next March, but March 5th, so just kind of keep that on your radar. We did a wellness conference this past year, which was very well received and people really enjoyed it, and so we would encourage all of you to consider attending that next year in March. And I have an announcement from the East Side, which is with regard to Parkinson's Disease Patient Care Education Program. That's October 14th at the Red Lion Templins Hotel in Post Falls, Idaho. That'll be an update on vision and related issues. Dr. Stephen Hamilton, a neuro-ophthalmologist, will be the speaker at that. And that runs from 3:30 to 4:30. That's in the Osprey Blue Heron Room at the hotel. And there is no charge for that program, and there will be refreshments. I have a phone number for you to call if you're interested, 425-443-8269. Okay, those are my announcements, and I'd like to go ahead and do a brief introduction of Dr. Jeff Shaw, who will be the speaker today. Dr. Shaw is a neuropsychologist who treats people struggling with cognitive and psychological difficulties. He's been with the Booth Gardner Parkinson's Care Center for the past 10 years, almost from its very beginning. He runs a men's support group for Parkinson's at Evergreen Hospital, and he has been part of our STP, the Spokane to Portland bike ride Team Parkinson's member for 6 years. Thank you very much. And he is a speaker at our Hope Conference. He's been a speaker for the past 3 years. So I think you're going to enjoy this presentation. And just so you know how this will function, at the end of the presentation, we'll have time for questions. And what we do is to go to each of your remote sites and ask whoever is there if you have any questions, and then you'll be able to ask them. We'll do it in a methodical way, so we'll go down the list, and everybody will have a chance to ask their own questions. So thanks again for being here.
I'm Jeff Shaw, and I promise this talk will not be methodical, and it'll be casual and hopefully a little fun, even though the topic is kind of serious. I don't know where to direct my attention as we got about 650 people in this auditorium here watching me today, or maybe you can't count, maybe it's more like 20, and then you guys on the other end of this camera, so I'll kind of look back and forth and try to split the attention here. Today's talk, I'm sure none of you have any issues with these things we're going to talk about, and you all came because you have a friend or you know somebody that might have problems with compulsions or addictions or obsessions or problems prioritizing or procrastinating or all this other fun stuff we're going to talk about today. But I'm sure nobody here is having those issues. Another clarification is that we didn't do the Spokane to Portland, Seattle to Portland STP, although there is a Seattle to Spokane bike ride they do in one day. They call the SOS, Seattle one day to Spokane, 300 miles a day. I'll never do it, but it's there. And today's talk, one other thing, I've been doing these talks for various Parkinsons audiences for about 10 years now. And I think I've pretty much done them all. I've done talks on how to talk about depression and not have it be depressing, talks on anxiety, talks on having fun, talks on using the we to improve your therapy, all sorts of things. And when I was asked with this one, what kind of thing do you want to talk about? I said, I want to talk about the most fun thing. And one of the most interesting paradoxes that I see with Parkinson's is people often have difficulty doing the things that they should be doing and then put in all sorts of energy into all the things they probably shouldn't be doing, or at least things that don't matter very much. And the fancy words in the title, compulsions, addictions, prioritizations, with Parkinson's disease, these are all kind of describing the same sort of thing. There's only a fine line difference between all these areas of problems. And I'm going to go back and forth between all of them. So just so you know that my general argument is that all these conditions are much more similar than they are not alike. So the other thing is that I decided when I do these talks, I just kind of get bored talking about general facts and things. And you guys would get bored too. And when I just put bullet lists up about what problems are and what's going on with these things. So I've decided to do a case study. And I promise I'll still have boring bullet lists mixed in. But I think case study is more interesting. And I need all of you to help me in this whole endeavor because we want to keep this stuff private. This is about an individual, and some of you may know him, and I don't want this to be spread all over the world. So be a little discreet. And if you know this person, let me know so that, I don't want to be talking about anybody and embarrass him in front of all of his friends. Does anybody know Mr. WC? Anybody ever here? So I suspect a few of you might know this character. And it was interesting the way that I came to pick this character for my case study, because it hadn't occurred to me until I saw the flyer that was put together by somebody with the Northwest Parkinson's Foundation who put a cartoon figure on this, and I thought, that's a great character. Just cannot stop. Let's think about Wile E. Coyote if you haven't figured out who he is yet. What is his life composed of? What does this coyote do all day long? All of his time, all of his energy. What does he do? Is there anything wrong with it? So that's a big part of what we're going to struggle with today. When you have an obsession or a compulsion or an addiction,
I have it all
says there's anything wrong with it. How do you know when you cross that line? And that's what we're going to go through. And how does Parkinson's make that worse?
Nope.
Or how does Parkinson's make that better? Or what does make a difference? So here's our case study. And the next thing is, what is a compulsion? Well, the simplest way to think about that is a compulsion is something that you are compelled to do. So Mr. Coyote up there, what is he compelled to do? He wants to catch this stupid bird. It turns out the bird's not that stupid. The bird's pretty wily himself, as I remember. And the thing that I can't get about this cartoon, and believe me, I've watched this cartoon again and again and again, and I watch it with my 8-year-old, and we watch it again, and it's always funny, and it's always absurd. But why is this coyote so focused on this scrawny, little, elusive bird that probably wouldn't offer much nutrition? Aren't there other sources of food, or at least entertainment out in the desert for him? So most of us would look at this and go, this is crazy. Why is this crazy coyote always spending all this time trying to outsmart this bird? He's compelled. And then we're going to get into the terminology a little bit. So to have a compulsion, and I really tried to make this presentation work, so all these things would stream in, and apparently put out a different version of PowerPoint, and you get them all at once. So I apologize for having just a bullet list that overwhelms you like this. But let's start with it. It's an obsessive thought. What's an obsessive thought? You just can't get it out of your head. And what makes a good obsessive thought? Well, you repeat it again and again. You practice it. You think about it. You make that vivid. You imagine what it's finally going to feel like when you catch that stupid roadrunner, and when you get to eat it and pull out your knife and fork, and how great it's going to be, and maybe how great it's going to be to live down all those moments of embarrassment and all that shame that you've experienced and all that injury you've experienced in chasing it. It needs to be unforgettable. Have a good obsessive thought. It needs to be urgent. This needs to be done right now. And my wife says, and it's yummy, whatever that means. But it's a thought that's really attractive, appealing, or it's just so vivid and unforgettable you can't get rid of it. And I don't know, I could probably get us all obsessing over something right now. What's your favorite Dairy Queen treat? Mine has a peanut butter parfait, alternating levels of vanilla ice cream, chocolate fudge, peanuts all swirled around. It just keeps repeating itself. Now it's going to be way more than any two people need. And man, I know those things are bad for me. And sometimes I'm driving home and I'm like, I'm not going to go to Dairy Queen for the peanut butter parfait. And most of the times I resist the urge, but it's still there. And why not? Why shouldn't I go have that? Next up, peanut butter parfait. We'll talk about that some as we go along. So here's our friend the coyote, who's just thinking, if only I could catch that bird, if only I could get that meal, if only I could finally prevail. And he's just obsessing over this thought. He's salivating over it. He's dreaming it. He's conniving. He's all involved in it. And how do you make an obsessive thought go away? If you have an obsessive thought, how do you derail it? How do you make it disappear? Because they're hard. I guarantee you, everybody in this room, including me, has had things they've gotten focused on that they really shouldn't have or do. And it's hard to displace those. So we got him just fantasizing, if only I catch that stupid bird, then I'll be able to focus on other things in my life once I do it. So what's the difference between an obsession and a compulsion? If you can't see it, it's a classic scene. He's lighting his match to see where he is, and it turns out he's in a room full of dynamite. But what's the difference between an obsession and a compulsion? The obsession is the thought that you can't get rid of. The compulsion is the thing you want to do to make that thought finally go away. So what causes us to obsess? Why don't we just stop it? Why don't we just stop thinking about that or doing that thing or whatever it is that's getting in our way? Well, we obsess because we have fantasies. Ooh, when I get this, it's going to work out just great. Or when I have the peanut butter parfait, it's going to be so wonderful, and it's going to be worth all those 850 calories or whatever those things have in them. We obsess over fears, things that we're afraid might happen. Washing our hands is a good thing. Well, how much is washing your hands too much? Washing the skin right off your hands, some people, because they have these obsessions. We have images of things working out great. If I buy that boat, or if I buy that accessory for my bicycle, then finally I'll be content. Or I'll be the envy of everyone on that STP bike ride. I'll have the nicest carbon fiber handlebars anybody's ever looked at. We get addicted to things. And we're going to talk some about addictions, but addictions can cause real trouble when you try to discontinue. It might cause physical changes or psychological changes. Life might be very empty. We develop habits. What's the difference between a habit and an addiction? We do a lot of things habitually. If you do them do they become habit forming? If you do them, there's an old rule about if you do things so many times, it becomes a habit. Does anybody remember how many times you have to do it before something's a habit? 20? I think I heard 20, maybe 20, sounds right. Withdrawal from missing things, maybe physiological changes to some of these substances. Maybe you're doing these things because you're avoiding something else. I was putting this talk together this weekend. I really wanted to do it, but there are all sorts of other things I wanted to do too. So what I did is I rationalized, if I'm vacuuming the house, I'm doing something productive, but then I don't have to sit down and thought together. Or I got to study for an exam I'm taking tomorrow. I can come up with all sorts of legitimate things I can do to avoid the things that I really should do that are much higher priority than having a clean, vacuumed house. And then all these neurotransmitters and Parkinsons and these medications and everything else that goes into this that we're going to talk about. There's some physiology here, the way our brain is set up, the way our body works together. We're designed to kind of get hooked on things and addicted to things, and probably for some pretty good reasons. But like anything good, it can kind of go evil on us and cause problems. So you just have to have it. You got this thought in your head of something you need. And then finally, when you get that thing, does it all go away? Maybe. If I get that peanut butter parfait, am I going to need another one right away? Not right away. But how long is it going to be before that image starts coming back up into my head? I just need one more. If I just had one more, then I would be fine. No, what happens is once that obsessive thought goes away, and you've satisfied it, it tends to build back up and start calling at you louder and louder and louder. Come on, get that bird. Get that bird. Get the bird. So is it all over? Not really. Usually once you've developed a habit, once you've developed a pattern, once you've got all this stuff going, it tends to cycle back around on us and get us. So let's talk about everybody's favorite addictions or compulsions or obsessions. And if you want, you can all shout out your own personal ones or those of friends that you have or people if I didn't hit the list. But these are the ones I see most popularly. Drugs, alcohol, some sort of pill type of addiction is very common. Some of the medications associated with Parkinsons, we'll talk about that, is how they fit into this whole thing. But often we obsess about those in the wrong way. Is what happens if I miss a dose? Or what happens if I get to them? Or I don't want to be taking all these pills. I hate to take pills, and they just keep giving me more and more of these pills to take. And I don't want to take pills. Food, that's one of my favorite obsessions. And I bet you pretty much everybody in this room is wired to really like food. It ensures that we get to survive and we don't starve to death. Gambling. Isn't it wonderful to be in a place where there's so many casinos? Growing up in Georgia, we didn't have casinos. They built the dog track eventually. But casinos, man, they've got it down. They understand human psychology better than I understand psychology. They know what makes people keep putting their money in machines and taking chances, and what makes you feel like you're going to be a winner when maybe you might not be. Sex and pornography. Is it any surprise that our bodies and our minds are wired to obsess on having sex, to focus on them? Some people tell me there's a difference between men and women. Anybody think that there's a difference in sexual focus between men and women? A pretty safe group here. Nobody wants to get kicked by their neighbor or their spouse. There's a big difference in men and women, and especially as we see people age, we see bigger differences with hormonal changes. And often people that are afraid as they get older, they're going to be less attractive and they're going to have less opportunity. So often more focused on the importance of sex. And the interesting thing that I joke about, which really isn't a joke, is I have women come in all the time with their husbands or their significant others saying that their male partner is hypersexual. I've never ever had a man come in with his wife complaining that his wife was hypersexual. So there appear to be some differences in perception here. And then this other issue of a lot of people get caught up in pornography here, even though it might be problematic with their religious views or their views of humanity. And now with this whole internet thing, you get the 3 A's of addiction going for you. You've got anonymous, pretty much do it from your own house, affordable, pretty much free, and it's accessible 24/7. You don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to pay anything. It's right there. It's no wonder that people get hooked into these things that we're primed to be addicted to. And again, I will agree that men tend to have more issues with sex and the sexual images. Some people become obsessed and become compulsive exercisers. Not me. It's a fight. But some people go overboard and they're exercising 6-8 hours a day. Shopping. I probably am guilty of shopping. I love to shop. And have you ever experienced when you're shopping, when you're looking for something, You get all this imagery going in about, ooh, when I get this thing, I'm going to look so good in that pair of shoes, or I'm going to get this accessory for my bike or my boat. And then you get all this tension, you can't wait to buy it, and you buy it, and you get it. And all the excitement over that thing goes away in a few minutes or a few hours or days. And then you're on to what's the next thing you're going to get that's going to give you that feeling of excitement and that fantasy and that imagery. And collecting and hoarding, you kind of put those things together. I won't ask if anybody here collects anything. I used to collect these little tractor miniatures because my family had a tractor dealership and I wanted to collect all the models. And then you cross a certain line and go, wow, I'm spending a lot of money on these things just to get one more. And every time I got one, I thought, oh, that's it. My collection will finally be complete. But they always keep making more. It's like they've got me figured out. Those are the casinos. And then hoarding is like when you collect and you don't get rid of anything. You're almost afraid to get rid of any belonging. And I've seen it so extreme with some of our clients that they won't even throw away used toilet paper because there's some value associated with it. So you're extremely irrational at times. And think about that coyote. Is he irrational at times, his pursuit of this creature? Probably. So a lot of times our obsessions don't make sense. And this is where we're going to get into trouble with these addictions and these obsessive thoughts and compulsive behaviors, is how much is too much. Who's to say whether I have enough bike parts in my garage? And there's never enough. And if I have the money, maybe that money could go towards retirement, maybe it could go towards other important things in my life. But who's to say that I'm spending too much? Well, to me, in my perspective, maybe off a little bit. My wife, she's biased. And how many pairs of shoes does a woman really need? And this is where we run into trouble with trying to decide if anything's problematic. And I have trouble interviewing people when I talk to them in my office. So is there anything that you're obsessed, or any compulsions that you have, or do you have OCD about anything, or are you addicted to anything? Well, no, not really. Well, is there anything that you do where you spend too much time or money on that you'd rather not be spending all that time or money on? And that's really more what we're trying to get at, is are these things getting in the way of doing something else, using resources in another way? So if we use the word addiction, what does addiction look like? Generally, you get some tolerance. After a while of doing it, the $20 shoes from Target don't really work as well. If you have shopping addiction, you find yourself buying more and more items or more expensive merchandise. You never really quite have enough. And some types of chemicals, you get withdrawal. You get addicted to them. If you stop them, you start getting tremors or shakes, or you just can't live without. You get hunger pangs for those things. You get psychological withdrawal. You feel depressed. You feel sad. You feel down because of it. And like we talked about, you develop a habit. You expect to do it. It's part of the pattern. It's part of the routine. Escalating pursuit kind of goes in with the tolerance side. The more that you do, the more that you want. And typically, when we're talking about addictions, you have to lie to keep it going, because it's so obvious to other people it's destructive that they'll try to confront you, try to do an intervention, try to stop you. So you start getting sneaky about things. Usually that's a sign that something is problematic, when you're sneaky about something. And it threatens your future, financial stability, maybe your legal stability, maybe relationships are a huge part of that. They usually are. But using these resources inappropriately can have consequences. So the next one is, it sounds bad to say you're addicted to something. Oh, I don't know. Sure, I do this a little too much. Is it really a problem? Well, the test for an addiction is, are the behaviors maladaptive, meaning do they get in the way of you doing things that you should be doing, and do they interfere with other parts of your life that you should be? I had one client who was talking about just computer use. He liked chat rooms and talking to people and shopping and researching and looking up things on Parkinsons and all kinds of it. And I asked him how many days or how many hours a day did he spend on their computer. And he said, oh, probably about 6 or 7. And I said, wow, that's a lot. His wife says, no, try 13 to 20 hours a day. Sometimes he doesn't even come to bed. He falls asleep in the chair. And I'm like, what's he doing so important on the computer? And neither of them could tell me what was important on the computer. It was just one thing led to the next. Come to dinner, honey. I will in a minute. the family would eat without them. That sounds like an addiction, or at least something that is a compulsion, somewhere in that crossover. It's getting in the way of you doing other things. Wasn't exercising, wasn't doing the taxes, wasn't doing all these other things that got procrastinated. So it takes over, and there are consequences. It can be on your health, it can be financial, it can be just losing connection with your family, with your community, and what generally tends to happen is these things start off, they're not such a problem, and then they escalate. They take over more and more of your life and your energy, and they become destructive. Addictions generally are destructive. So one way that you look at this is with Mr. Coyote here. What does it cost him to pursue this bird? I mean, maybe he has nothing better to do. Well, here's a pie chart. The red shows what he's spent in medical bills. Not surprising, all the times he falls off cliffs and runs into sheer walls. And, spends quite a bit on Acme products. I think Acme kind of takes advantage of him. Maybe kind of like casinos take advantage of us and our vulnerabilities. And are they responsible for saying, no, you can't come in this casino? You have a gambling problem. Why would they want to do that? They'd be losing their best customers. So really, I mean, there are certain industries that set up to take advantage of people that have addictions or that are compelled to do things. Maybe you could argue home shopping network or the whole internet shopping could be that way. And everybody's looking to make a buck. Why not find a shortcoming, a weakness in people and take advantage of that? So he spent some other money on bird seed, remember that, and tiny signs. I'm surprised that isn't a bigger part of his budget. And tiny umbrellas, I guess, for falling off of things. Don't really work as a parachute. So it costs a lot. Look at how much of his budget goes to medical bills. That should tell you something. And just an idea with habituation. Generally, when you start doing something that you probably shouldn't be doing, you tend to get used to it, and you tend to want to go for more and more things. I don't know if this works so much with food. Maybe you start off with a small blizzard. By the time you get to the end of it, you're having an extra large peanut butter parfait. But you take more and more risks. And we hear this a lot with sexual addictions, where people start off with just really liking sex, and then things become more and more kind of out of the mainstream of what people are comfortable doing. And I've seen many men in particular that with the sexual side of the relationship have become more and more interested in all these alternate sorts of activities their spouses weren't too crazy about. And there is this search for novelty as you kind of get used to things at the other level. We know with alcohol and the drugs, people who tend to use more and more, or tend to use harder drugs and harder drugs, and I'm talking about illegal drugs as opposed to medications, because we get used to them. And we don't get the same sort of fun or the same sort of excitement or the same sort of reward out of it. But why can't we stop? Isn't that this whole talk? Is just can't stop. Why can't we stop doing these things? We kind of know they're bad for us. But a lot of times we're ambivalent. Do we really want to give up on it? No. I'd like to stop shopping as much for these things, but I kind of like shopping. I get to make decisions. It's important. Or gambling. Well, I know I shouldn't waste anymore, but it's exciting. And it's a nice place. And they've got food, and other people are there. And the other day I won $300. Denial. It's really not a problem. We all know what denial is. But it's not a problem. That's one of the biggest reasons people don't stop. It's not causing any problems. Everybody does this. Could be worse. We rationalize it. Oh, such and such in history did this thing. They were successful. I'm entitled. I have a really stressful day. I should be able to just wind down and have that drink. Or I should be able to just spend time on the computer because I've lived a stressful life. I've worked. I don't have to do these things. One more time. I'm just going to do this one more time. I think that gets people into trouble more. I know it's a problem. One more time. One more peanut butter parfait. I'm done with Dairy Queen. Withdrawal. Sometimes people try to stop things and there's a chemical change that's happened. And again, habit, and a lot of times we just don't change because it keeps us out of doing other things we don't want to do. And maybe that's one of the reasons why people tend to waste so much time. So why does this matter so much with Parkinson's? Why did I draw Parkinson's into this whole talk? Don't ask me what that picture has to do with Parkinson's, but I was getting a little bored with all the words. I'll go back. Parkinson's. Does Parkinson's make people more likely to obsess over things? What do you guys think? Does Parkinson's make it a little bit harder sometimes to take good perspective and balance and realize that, maybe this is a little bit overboard? And unfortunately, many people with Parkinson's, not everybody, but if you have Parkinson's, you probably have more vulnerability to not being able to have the best perspective on what's going on. And that's due to some changes in the brain, some really important highways and pathways of chemicals that communicate all sorts of the brain. It's a very complex situation. But people with Parkinson's are